Hey everyone, welcome back to the SAF Report on Investor Scene. Now, I'm very excited about this month's story because it's a company that, unless you've been living under a rock, is very topical right now. We're talking personal security. We're also talking about the lineups we're seeing as the travelers post-COVID come back in places like airports and places like gaming stadiums. So this company has some incredible technology and some incredible relationships, taking it to the next step. It's a company that trades on the TSX Venture under SCAN or SCAN. The company is called Liberty Defense, and the CEO, Bill Frain, joining us now. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it.
I appreciate the time. Now, obviously, we should state that all of our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of those affected by the shootings, down in the United States. And there's a lot of things happening right now. And before we kind of cover that or jump into what Liberty is doing, let's give a little bit of a background to the audience, a lay of the land, if you will, about your company.
Yeah, sure, Jeremy, and certainly thoughts and prayers. There's been a lot of activity, right, that's happened, 27 school shootings, but, there's also been events in the Brooklyn subway, shooting in Buffalo, out in California, so these events, whether it's, domestic terrorism or domestic threats that are happening, certainly are an issue. And our goal at Liberty Defense is really to prevent those acts from happening. That's really our mission statement, protecting the public wherever people are gathering, right, to make it safer so that people can get back out again, as you mentioned, in this post-COVID world that we're going to be hopefully entering in very soon. But the Liberty Defense, so we're a multi-technology security and detection company. Our flagship product is called HexWave, which is a walk-through portal that will automatically detect concealed, non-metallic, and metallic threats. So that's your ghost guns, that's your plastic explosives, it's your guns, your knives, anything that shouldn't be on the person will be able to detect as you're walking through the system. It's safe, there's no privacy issues. And we took that technology, it was really born out of MIT Lincoln Labs, and we have that exclusive license. And, we've spent about $30 million combined with MIT over the last 4 or 5 years to bring this technology to life, and we're there now.
Now, let's talk a little bit about this next-gen technology. I know it's AI-based, so it's getting smarter and smarter the more data you collect, the more aware that this is. Talk a little bit about the opportunity here. I mean, you're talking about a walk-through scanner, but incredible technology that's allowing to speed up these cues and to be a little bit more accurate.
Yeah, so it's exactly right, Jeremy. And so we use a very low frequency RF signal along with, we create a real-time 3D video rate imaging, and using our AI, that's how we're able to detect if something is on the person that shouldn't be there. So very similar to the body scanners that are at the airport today. So actually, a lot of the folks that we have here at Liberty from the engineering side were the ones that developed that in our former company. So they know how to do it. They know how the technology works, and we know the physics behind it works. So, again, our goal is detection, being able to detect something that shouldn't be there. That's first and foremost, especially as we talk about these things that have been happening, in the US and around the world, right? To be able to detect, the better we can see something, the better we'll be able to detect it. So that's the goal. Obviously, throughput is a priority, as you mentioned, improving the lines that we're seeing, whether it's at an airport or a stadium or even a school. So, throughput is obviously one of the considerations, but, the security and detection, the safety is what we're really focused on. And that's what the HexWave provides.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're seeing it right now. Like I mentioned before, it's not only topical, but there's a clear use study here. I mean, besides what you've just spoken about, I mean, you've been working with the TSA. There's some very large names here, and there's some credibility. Let's get into the team. I mean, you recently announced here that you brought somebody on board who's amazing, Virginia Buckingham. I want to talk a little bit about that. What's the strategy here? I mean, you guys are moving fast, which is why we're featuring you. It's a great entry point. You've got all the technology ready to go to market here. Let's talk about the next steps.
Yeah, so I'll step back. You mentioned the team, right? So, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have probably 8 to 10 engineers that are really the experts in their field. So the AI capability, software engineer, hardware, mechanical engineers. And as I mentioned, there are people who have been in the security space are 25 to 30 years. So they really understand not only what, how the technology works, but what the customer is looking for as well, and the concept of operations and how to process people safely and securely. And in addition to that, we just brought on Virginia Buckingham. Virginia is, a leader in this industry. She was part of Logan Airport, was there during 9/11. So she understands really what it means. It has some, personal meaning to her as well. And to be honest, that's why we're in this business. I've been in this business for 30 years. And you really become passionate about the fact that you are trying to provide a security approach, right? Be part of the solution, be part of that layered security approach that can provide that safety for the public. So we've got the technology in place, we got the team in place, we're growing, the market is there. I mean, everybody can kind of see that, right? There's a need and there's a demand for this capability. So the other thing I'll touch on, you mentioned TSA. We have a contract with them. So we were awarded a contract back in September. It was a bid, and we were one of 20 companies that bid on this, and we were the only ones selected. And that's to screen for the aviation workers. So at all the airports in the US and around the world, but specifically in the US, the workers go through a separate entrance. And right now they only go through metal detectors. So the TSA was looking for enhanced detection, improved throughput, and overall improved experience for those workers. And that's why the HexWave and Liberty Defense were selected.
It's interesting. You talked about the credibility of the company, which is why you're getting such remarkable talent over to Liberty. In the future, I know you can't obviously give anything future looking here, but I know that we went through beta. Talk a little bit to me about some of these beta customers. I mean, you guys are really at a very exciting point here for the team.
Yeah, and so the hardware is done. The HexWave, the portal is done, configuration is done. We've got some, as you mentioned, some great partners, Toronto Airport, Maryland Stadium Authority, University of Wisconsin. We have a large temple that's outside of Atlanta that we'll be utilizing. We're talking to Port of Tampa. So you can see the diversity of the customers that we're reaching out to, and really where this technology is needed. I mean, unfortunately, we're going to be seeing this more common places like grocery stores, I think, and all events that are happening. So it's really a diverse use case for this technology. So we've got some great partners that are lined up, which we're very excited about.
We're seeing the evolution too. It's been years ago where I'm sure you and I both could remember where we walked through the typical scanner at the airport. Now we have, we put our arms up and we get a little bit of a photo taken. The evolution is there. We know that this isn't going away as a market. Where do you see this going for the company in, say, the next 6 months?
Well, so, and you're absolutely right. So over the last 30 years that I've been in this, you think that there's going to be saturation, but it's not. Technology needs to evolve as the threat evolves. And that's what we're looking to do. So we see this, so over the next 6 months, we'll be with our beta partners. We'll be getting a better understanding of the requirement and the throughput, and again, the detection capability and how well the system performs. And the great news for us is it's algorithm driven. You mentioned AI. It's really driven by the software. So if there's a threat somebody wants to find, in addition to explosives or guns, we can see drugs, we could see money, right? So all those things, whether it's theft prevention. So the threat can really be a lot of different things to a lot of different potential customers. So I think in the next 6 months, this technology is going to develop into that next generation capability where, we're working hand in hand with the TSA, with Toronto Airport, and with, the Baltimore Orioles, and we've been talking to a lot of different market verticals. So I think we're going to start to see technology like this out in the field sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was talking to an analyst down in New York, and they were talking about how majority of boardrooms now are having these discussions. We're having discussions about personal security, where to put some funding towards their own companies, to what to look for in terms of planning. So the audience is so wide-reaching here for a product like this. Bill, part of the reason that we're featuring the company is obviously this is a beautiful entry point. We've seen a very dicey retail and institutional market. You've currently or just recently done a raise. Congratulations in these types of market conditions. It's no small feat. In terms of, cash is in the bank, and some would say that the hard work's been done. Now it's just execution. So do you think this is just the beginning?
It absolutely is just the beginning. And, we see the technology developing. We've added a few other capabilities with Pacific Northwest National Labs. You may have seen, we announced that we had a shoe screener that won, an innovation award, as well as upgrading those body scanners that are at the airports today. So we are developing as a company, we're growing as a company. The HexWave, as I mentioned, is our flagship, but this is really just the beginning. And, we are, as they say, we're turning the cranks here at the facility here in Boston, as well as our Atlanta operation. And, we're getting ready to deploy this globally.
You talked a little bit about those beta customers. I'm looking forward to sharing with the audience in the future. We got to have you back on as we start to describe who those are and what's taking place so that you can continue to execute. Bill, congratulations. Just a fantastic company. I'm excited to be a shareholder of it.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. We're excited as well.
All right. Thank you, sir. And we will talk to you soon.
Great. Thanks.